Alexander Volkanovski takes on Diego Lopes at UFC 314 next month in April. And I hate that I have to make this video, but I think that this could potentially be Alexander Volkanovski's last fight. And I actually think it is going to be his last fight if he's smart, because I think that Diego Lopes is going to beat Alexander Volkanovski. And I think if he does beat him, it's going to be by knockout. Could be by submission. I don't see him beating Volkanovski by a decision. I think if it goes to decision, Volkanovski will probably edge out at least 3 rounds. So I think that he would win a decision. But at this point in Volkanovski's career, he's coming off a very long layoff. And not a super long layoff. It'll be just over a year and 2 months. But for Volkanovski, in Volkanovski years, that's like 4 years, 3 years. Volkanovski is usually really active. He likes to fight a lot, and he's coming in over a year off, and he likes to have that momentum. That's how he's been doing really well as a champion. Like, he fought a couple times a year. He was always ready to go, and he was so eager that it actually costed him 2 fights ago against Islam Makhachev, which is kind of the fight that has been his downfall recently. We'll see if it's going to prove to be true, if his downfall is actually going to happen, because he did lose to Ilia Topuria. There's no shame in that. But, man, if you're Volkanovski, you're coming in to this fight knowing that the last 2 fights you got knocked out badly, especially against Ilia Topuria. Like, against Islam Makhachev, he got knocked out, hammer fists on the ground. He kind of woke up a few seconds later, was kind of aware of what was going on. He was disappointed, but then Ilia Topuria put him out so bad, he was folded over for like 2 minutes before he woke up. He was out bad. And Volkanovski's now 36. He was 35 when that fight happened. Like, you're coming back as an active fighter who hasn't got knocked out. Finally, he got knocked out again. You're older. How often do we see champions, or even fighters in general, who get knocked out at this age, especially in the lower weight classes, and then come back to win a championship belt? And not just win a championship belt, but how many do you see come back and be the same person that they were before? The odds, if he came back and he was exactly the same and his chin was fine, he would be beating the odds. He would be beating the odds that tell you Father Time catches up with everybody, no matter how good you are, no matter how good your chin was. And Volkanovski never had the greatest chin. He didn't get knocked out a lot, but he did get knocked down. He got rocked. Against Max Holloway, I believe in their first or second fight, he got knocked down a couple of times. He got knocked down by Islam Makhachev. He got knocked down by Chad Mendes. Like, he's been knocked down. He never had the greatest chin. He had a good chin. He had a chin that could take shots, but he never had a great chin. So now you pair that with getting knocked out twice at an older age in the lighter weight classes. His chin is gone. I would be very surprised if his chin was fine, or if it was at the point that it was 2 or 3 years ago. I would be shocked if that happened. And the thing is, going up against someone like Diego Lopes has power. He's fast. He's huge. He's way bigger than Ilia Topuria is. He's taller. He's rangier. He's probably faster. Like, he zips those shots in. Really quickly. And he has power as well. He's not just throwing a jab out there. Like, he's throwing quick hands. And he knocked out, if you look at his last fight against Brian Ortega, he actually knocked him out with a counter shot and then landed a quick follow-up shot that woke Brian Ortega back up. It was a really quick sequence, but he kind of knocked out Brian Ortega for a second, which is really impressive because Brian Ortega has a great chin. And, Brian Ortega, of course, he's defensively terrible. Volkanovski is very careful. He's very skilled, of course, but, if he comes in here, I just don't think he's going to be as fast as he was. I don't think he's going to be as strong. I don't think he's going to... His power was never great. And, is he still going to have his IQ? Yeah, he's going to have his fight IQ. But when you're going up against a way bigger guy in Diego Lopes, it just turned 30 years old. a few months ago. Like he's young, he's hungry, he's fast, he has a great chin. I mean, his cardio is not the best. So that's where Volkanovski's going to have to take advantage, is if Volkanovski can survive the first couple rounds and then really start to wear on Diego Lopes, I think that's where he's going to be able to take over. But the hard part is getting to that point. And even if you're in the 4th or 5th rounds, if Diego Lopes lands a clean shot on Volkanovski, is he going to be able to take it? So you have to think, for 5 rounds, let's say, is he just going to be able to cruise to a decision without getting tagged once or twice? I think Volk's chin is going to be gone. He got knocked out so badly in his last 2 fights. And if you think about it, his last win was in 2023 of July of 2023. So that'll be almost 2 years ago by the time this fight happens, was his last win. His last two fights, knockout losses, 36 years old. So I don't like it going up against Diego Lopes. And it doesn't matter. He's more skilled. And he actually had a quote. And one thing that I really don't like is Volkanovski had in a recent interview, he said, "I don't believe anyone can beat me. The only person I can see giving me a tough fight for 5 rounds is Islam Makhachev. Everyone else just has a puncher's chance." I don't like that mindset. If you're coming in here, yeah, you've been champion for a really long time, but you have to accept that it's not just a puncher's chance. And if there was no knockouts, if there was no submissions in MMA, Volkanovski would beat so many people in the UFC because he is so talented. But the fact is, man, you have knockouts. Your chin's not very good. You're older. You're not going to be as fast. Like, it's just not a good mindset. I think he has to be coming in here hungry, thinking, this is my last shot, man. If I don't win this, what is he going to do? If Volkanovski doesn't win this, what is he going to do? Is he going to keep fighting? I mean, we've seen guys, champions, they're on win streaks, they're great champions, they get knocked out, and they just don't come back the same. Look at Kamaru Usman. Look at Adesanya's on a 3-fight losing streak. Kamaru Usman hasn't been winning after getting knocked out. He hasn't even really been fighting, but his last couple fights have been losses. He hasn't looked the same. He's looked slower. He hasn't looked as good. He's looked more hesitant. Then you look at guys like Tony Ferguson, who took a ton of damage. He came back and lost 7 in a row after taking damage. And Volkanovski, he hadn't got knocked out in his career. Not at featherweight, not for years. Now that he's older, we've seen these guys get knocked out, they take damage, and they're just done. They're just done. They're not as fast. They're way more hesitant. I think Volkanovski's going to come in here really hesitant against Diego Lopes, as he should, because Diego Lopes is super dangerous, especially early. But if Diego Lopes lands a one good shot on him, it could be over. And I don't know where Volkanovski goes from here. What is he going to do? He's not going to keep winning. When you're a hungry contender coming up, you're beating all these guys, you're going on win streaks, you're staying active, you finally win the belt, you hold the belt for years, and then you end up losing. Like, your motivation to come back is not going to be the same. You don't have the same motivation to beat contenders and try to get the belt back. Like, you accomplished your goal of becoming champion. You were a great champion, probably the GOAT of the featherweight division. I don't think Volkanovski's going to come back and try to beat Aljamain Sterling. I mean, I think that's a winnable fight for him. He would probably beat Aljamain Sterling, but yeah, I think he's going to be done after this. And I'm sad to see it because I love Alexander Volkanovski. I really hope he doesn't take the Tony Ferguson path and try to keep winning. Tony Ferguson kept saying he's still hungry. But dude, you got to hang it up. And I think if Volkanovski, if he gets knocked out in this fight, he has to retire. I think he will retire because I think he said his plan was to beat Diego Lopes, defend the belt like 2 more times, and then retire. So I imagine if he just loses this fight, especially if he gets knocked out, he's going to retire. He has like 4 kids. He's married. He has a great life. He has tons of money. He's set for life. He's the GOAT of the featherweight division. He has nothing else to prove. So I think that at UFC 314, I think Volkanovski's going to retire. I think Diego Lopes is going to win, probably knock him out. But Diego Lopes can win in all sorts of ways. He can submit him. He has a great submission game. I don't think he can beat him by decision, but I think that it's not going to matter. I don't think this fight's going 5 rounds. Volkanovski's chin is done. And I love Volkanovski. I hope he doesn't get knocked out. But at this point, we've seen too many people take damage at a later age, and they're just done. They're just done. And there's no hope for them because they come back, they're slower, they're hesitant, they're not as good, they're not as strong, their chin's gone, they don't have that burst, that explosiveness anymore. So, and Diego Lopes is hungry, he's young, he's only 30 years old, he could win this belt and be a champion for years. So yeah, I think Volkanovski's going to retire at UFC 314. And I just want to say, Volkanovski was a great champion. For the time that he was champion, beat Max Holloway twice, close fights, then he fights Brian Ortega, almost gets submitted in like the 3rd round, then finally he gets out of the submission. Brian Ortega is on the ground. I don't know how Volkanovski got up after almost being choked out for like a minute and a half. And then he gets up and starts wailing on Brian Ortega for like 2 minutes. I don't know where his cardio came from. Put on a hell of a performance against him, and then he just beat down the Korean Zombie. I know the Korean Zombie was older, and he was on his way out. But to make the Korean Zombie look like he didn't belong in there is super impressive. Then he made Max Holloway look like an amateur. Just beat him up for 5 rounds. He gave a ton of damage to Max Holloway. What an amazing performance that was. And then he gives Islam Makhachev the hardest fight of his life. Almost beats Islam Makhachev. I know a lot of people thought maybe it was 4-1. Some people thought Volkanovski won. I thought that Islam Makhachev won 3-2, but I thought it was very, very close. He made Islam Makhachev look like kind of not a very good grappler. He didn't make Islam Makhachev look strong at all. Volkanovski, short but strong. Then he goes out there. We think, he's finally lost. Goes out against Yair Rodriguez. Just puts on a hell of a performance again. And he's had some really good title fights. And he's won very dominantly against guys like Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega. Beat Max Holloway 3 times altogether. Made the Korean Zombie looked like he was an amateur, and made the huge mistake of going out there against Islam Makhachev on short notice. You don't do that against Islam Makhachev, especially up a weight class, not in shape. Gets knocked out, turns around too soon, like 3-4 months later against Ilia Topuria, who is a knockout artist, one of the hardest, probably one of the pound for pound hardest hitting guys in the UFC. Gets knocked out, gets folded over, doesn't wake up for like 2 minutes, and takes a ton of time off. But I don't think it's going to help his chin. I don't think he's just getting older. He's not going to be as fast. He's not going to be as strong. He's not going to be as confident. So, yeah, and I don't like his mindset going in. So I'm going to take Diego Lopes to win by knockout, and I think Volkanovski, sadly, is going to retire at UFC 314. What do you guys think? Who do you guys have winning in this fight? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.